money, trying to whip that in.
Bach, famous in je vallen is. Hem hier gestaan niet al lang is nu ten hele havischen.
Toch?
Broken?
Agus een pauw! Jerry! Cheerio!
You want to come with me? Because if you do, I should warn you, it will not be safe. Well, it might be. It won't be quiet. Well, it might be. But I'll tell you what it will be. The trip of a lifetime.
The Beech Grove Garden is moving to a new time. The new series starts Thursday at 7 on BBC One Scotland.
Now on BBC One, it's time for another adventure in space and time with Peter Capaldi and the Police Box.
Quarantine session! What do you mean, Mr. Quarantine session!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, get your feet up, tear off that wrapper and sink your teeth into that sweet, sweet nougat. It's a Doctor Who YouTube show that helps you work, rest and play. It's the Police Box Live. Tonight we begin the home stretch of our trial of Series 10 of Doctor Who with Empress of Mars going before the court. Currently Mark Gatiss' last contribution to televised Doctor Who, Empress of Mars features a battalion of British soldiers who, following the rescue of an ice warrior in Africa, have travelled to Mars in an attempt to colonise it in the name of the British Empire. Now, the British Empire is one of the more problematic areas of British history in which the British Army, at the behest of Queen Victoria, expanded Britain's influence in the wider world with a series of colonisations of smaller nations, achieved via the subjugation of their indigenous peoples, before helping themselves to the riches and precious items that those lands had to offer, some of which were doled out to high-ranking officials by the aristocracy as reward for their efforts. Talking of which, I'm joined as ever tonight by two men who, if the rumours are to be believed, have something in common with the British Army of the late Victorian period. They've both been known to willingly offer up their services for free to ageing queens in exchange for a few gaudy trinkets. It's Cameron Phillips and David Cummings.
Well, that was a long road to get to that one, wasn't it?
I'm breathe out.
God. Thought I was going to go make another cup of coffee for a minute there.
Never underestimate my desire to get a cheap jibe in at your tour expenses. It's just...
I know.
It'll last
it's getting ever more elaborate as time goes on. Dear God.
Welcome along, everyone, to a potential title decider on Series 4 of the Police Box tonight. We'll reveal a little bit more about that a little bit later on. Empress of Mars is in the courtroom tonight, so before we crack on with all the usual stuff, you'll have noticed that there are two people sitting at the bottom of our screen who are surprisingly both called Dave. This is going to get really confusing throughout the course of tonight.
That's the plan.
That's the format. So let's get them introduced. Joining Dave on the prosecution team tonight is a man who spent 2 weeks this summer as part of the Tartan Army, following Scotland's progress in the European Championships in Germany. In many ways, watching Scotland's national football team in an international tournament is perfect preparation for an appearance on the Police Box Live. You go into both full of excitement and optimism, only to quickly realise that it doesn't live up to your expectations, ultimately leaving resolve broken and spirit crushed, saying never again, before coming back for more of the same just a few months down the line. From a kettle and a piece of string podcast, it's the one and only Mr. Dave Rennie.
Hello, gentlemen. Lovely to be back. And unlike Scotland, we won last time. Won the episode I was on, so
yeah.
That's something Scotland don't usually do.
I've got to say, for a Scottish football fan, a rare victory. So
certainly at the moment.
Aye, certainly.
Well, yeah.
Okay then, and joining Cam on the defence team tonight is a man who on his last Postbox Live appearance showed true dedication to the cause, buying a judge's wig to wear during the recording. Now, we're not saying that Empress of Mars challenges his doubted talents as champion of the damned, but the only purchase he's made tonight is to buy off the jury. He is, of course, the one and only Mr. Frazer Gregory.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us back.
More than welcome back, Fraser, anytime. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Good, looking forward to this.
Okay. Just to be sure, are we actually call you Fraser tonight or Dave? What's your preferred name?
I just thought that, I'll join the Dave gang. It's
okay. Yep. So fake Dave.
Didn't want to feel left out. That's what it is, basically.
Oh. We're all Daves in the end.
That insecure. That I called myself Dave.
Right then, shall we have a look at the series results so far?
Let's not. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, just fuck it. Let's just go straight to the show. Fuck the series results so far, mate.
We'll do the results so far.
I'm the judge. I'm going to do it. Tough. It's mad. I'm in charge here.
Well.
Right, series results so far.
Momentum's with the prosecution, isn't it?
The return of Dr. Mysterio was a 50-50 verdict. Judges found up not guilty. The pilot was found not guilty by 75% to 25%. Smile was found guilty by 62% to 38%. Thin Ice, not guilty, 89% to 11%. Knock Knock was found not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who, 72% to 28%. Oxygen, similarly, not guilty, 69% to 31%. And last time in our triple header bonanza, Extremists was found not guilty by 60% to 40%. Pyramid at the End of the World, guilty by 67% to 33%, and Live the Land was found guilty 74% to 26%. All of which means that Cameron leads the series 6-3 with 4 trials remaining, so one more win for Cam tonight means he's going to become Series 4 champion, but Dave could claw it back over the next 3 weeks to take it down to the wire with Twice Upon a Time on December the 12th.
Probably won't, though, let's be
honest. Comeback's on.
Could be, to be fair. I don't know how much sort of in the general sort of populace of Doctor Who fans, whether this is loved or reviled. I can't really get a sort of pulse on this one in the run up to it, so I'll be interested. This one's a good one to do.
I think the general concept, it's a bit average, maybe. It's not really, it's not one where people have got a lot to hang an opinion on of it's the best ever, it's the worst ever. It's just, anyhow, getting me on.
Yeah. Well, how about we find out how it goes then?
Well, we probably better do that. Yeah,
probably just that's the actual show, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see how tonight's trial fits into the pantheon of the results we've just had, because it's time once again to go back to 2017, the rock and roll years. Will the prosecution's arguments on tonight's episode help to break the ice, or will the defence impress you with their case? Let's find out as we put Empress of Mars on trial.
Do you remember the time when you were gone from Mars? I don't know if you knew that. I would stay up late playing cards and you were into them cigars. And she never told me her name. I still love you, the girl from Mars. Sleep in the chair by the window. It felt as if you'd returned. I thought that you were standing over me. When I woke, there was no one there. I still love you, girl from Mars. You remember the time when you were gone from Mars? I don't know if you knew that. Oh, it's there, they play cards and we went to the cigars. And I'll still dream of you. I still love you, girl from
Empress of Mars was written by Mark Gatiss, directed by Wayne Yip, and produced by Nicky Wilson with music by Murray Gold. It starred Peter Capaldi as the Doctor, Pearl Mackie as Bill, and Matt Lucas as Nardole, with Michelle Gomez as Missy, Anthony Caff as Godsacre, Ferdinand Kingsley as Catchlove, Richard Ashton as Friday, Adele Lynch as Araxa, Glenn Spears as Sergeant Major Peach, Ian Beattie as Jackdaw, Bayo Gamadosi as Fincy, Ian Hughes as Nibs, Leslie Ewan as Coolidge, and Zan Churchman as the voice of Alpha Centauri. It was broadcast on Saturday the 10th of June 2017, and the viewing figures were 5.2 million overall. Those are the cold, hard facts of the broadcast. Let's get into events proper. It's time to call this court to session.
This court is now in session.
The trial of Empress of Mars is now underway. Here's who's doing what tonight. Cam and Fake Dave are going to be defending Empress of Mars, whereas Dave and non-fake Dave are going to be prosecuting Empress of Mars. It's going to get really difficult. As is traditional, let's begin with this.
This is the law, chapter 1.
Once again tonight, we've thrown open the public gallery to allow you, the viewers, to submit your viewer evidence in the trial of Empress of Mars. Let's start, as every Tuesday evening should do, with a chippy tea. He says, Gatiss loves a nice warrior story, and this is a slow-burning cracker. Just like Cold War, it slowly teases the arrival of a big threat before backing away from it. The big questions are what did happen to Ultravox, and how practical is it to turn your enemies into boxes? Big questions.
Good point.
Slow-burning cracker?
Does anyone get that Ultravox reference? Because it means nothing to me.
It's in Cold War, isn't it?
Thank you, Look how pleased he is with himself.
Talking of slow burning crackers, that's what that punchline was.
It raises a good point, though. Why turn your enemy into a box? Yeah, that's a perfectly good weapon to begin with.
Storage? I don't know. Maybe there's not enough room in their Ice Warrior ships.
Just in case you need to build a staircase, it saves you having to buy the kids Lego.
Yep.
You just give them the corpses of your fallen foes, and they can entertain themselves for hours.
Beats a big token.
Yep.
Someone else who is a slow-burning cracker is Daniel Knight. Daniel says, so traditional it hurts. Fundo says, his usual Victorian tropes to bring us another episode that apes the classic series. It's lacking in originality, but still has charm, although Bill seems oddly out of character going on about sci-fi movies. But after the tiresome Monk trilogy, this felt like a breath of fresh air. I'd say not guilty, but it showed Gatiss was possibly getting hooed out, as John Nathan Turner would have put it.
Dear Daniel was doing quite well there until the second point, the second tweet there. It's not a breath of fresh air. The air's still stale.
Yep.
Stinks by this point.
We can all agree, though, that it was getting his who out that got John Barron into trouble.
We got it in early.
We did.
We got it. So just sort of nod that one home early.
Top corner. Next bit of your evidence is a newbie. It's from Adam Richard. Good evening and welcome aboard, Adam.
Hello.
He says, my biggest takeaway from this is that I wanted Ferdinand Kingsley to treat me very badly.
I thought he wasn't expecting company.
If that's the case, I recommend Adam Richard watches season 2 of Reacher on Amazon Prime, in which Ferdinand Kingsley has a substantive, he has a role in which he does very bad things to a lot of people.
I thought you were going to say he had a large part.
We're back to women again, aren't we?
Next up, previous guest on this series and the voice of our balls, it's Mr. Daniel Ronsley, who says, I'm a bit of a sop for Gatiss Doctor Who, so this one's not guilty. Decent story and better than his previous Ice Warrior outing with pulpy little historical shadings and turns of phrase. The young Jimmy Durham type soldier character, Munificence, quieter from the infirmary. Daniel goes on to say, Gargantua is a lovely name for a big sci-fi gun. Bit weird then that Capaldi is underplaying on gauge with the material. He and Bill are curiously flat next to Araxa and all the other stuff going on. A better Victorian era script would have gone harder on the colonialism issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll no doubt get to that.
We'll get to that, yes.
Oh, yes.
To be continued. Next up tonight's an newbie, Harry Hussey. Good evening, Harry, and welcome aboard. Harry says, it's not bad per se, but it's all a bit in Gatsby's wheelhouse. Victorian boy's own adventure with Ice Warriors and Alpha Centauri because he grew up on the Peladon stories. All a bit inconsequential.
Yep.
Yep. Agreed.
Pretty much it.
Gets a tick from the prosecution, that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next up, Cliff Chapman, who says, not guilty. It's slight, but it's better constructed than early Gatiss ones. It's slowly got better at not trying to cram a traditional 4-parter into 40 minutes, although I'd still liked a second episode. Some really nice lines, and I love the character names.
Yep. All good stuff there.
Better constructed than the other gas ones. Yes, it's a slightly firmer turd, but that's about all.
And the character name's Patchlow.
Yeah. Some belter names in this episode, which I'm sure we'll get to. And our man for belter name is Gareth Bowley, who says, as a story, it's okay. It feels like it's trying to right the Ice Warrior wrongs from Cold War, Skinny Shrek, we still see you, and making them a culture. Bonus given to it, giving us them in their natural habitat after all these years.
The Ice Warrior Hives of Mars.
Well, yeah, but it's not their natural habitat because they're the Ice Warriors and there's no ice. So it used to be their natural habitat, but all the ice is gone now. They're not the Dusty Cave Warriors.
Well, we're getting the technicalities here, Dave.
They are directly underneath the North Pole, and Doctor Who does threaten to collapse million tons of ice on top of them.
Yeah, but we've also been told that the ice is melted. So, you know, shaky ground.
You can still drown.
It's above. Ice is crashing down.
They're not called. They're not called sloppy cube warriors.
They're not the slush warriors.
Yeah.
Not don't eat yellow snow warriors.
And right in the wrongs of Cold War. That's it.
Yep.
Okay, next up, it's the one and only Mr. Joe Ford, who says the most novel thing to come out of this episode is people turning into bouncy balls. I like bouncy balls. Therefore, I like this episode. Doctor companion interaction, sexy Ice Warrior babe, is the only thing worth watching between extremists and world enough in time. Bold claim, bold claim.
He's bold. He's bold.
I'll disagree with that.
And funnily enough, bouncing these balls, I got John Barrowman in trouble.
Yes!
Ask anybody's shoulder.
In it.
Yep.
It's 2 Joes for the price of 1 because it's our friend from across the pond. It's Mr. Joe Llewellyn, who says, not my favourite monk at his script, but I was happy to be done with the monks, not guilty.
That'll do. That'll do. That'll do.
That'll do nicely. Okay, penultimate bit of your evidence tonight is from Darren Litroundles, who says this. I used to think I quite liked Series 10, but then I remember it has the Monk trilogy and this episode. There's nothing interesting about Ice Warriors, and visually it's such a dirge.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yep.
Is it though?
Spot on.
Is it though? It's not.
No, we'll get into
that.
Just not.
And it's not. According to the defence, it's not. Final bit of your evidence tonight is Paul Quinn, who says it's like Rice Burroughs' Princess of Mars and Zulu were locked in a room and Moffat shouted, "Start fucking" through the keyhole. It struck me as shit at the time. With apologies to Peter Biskind for adapting a story from Easy Rider Raging Bulls.
Won't you prod those bloody spears at me?
If I've told you once, I've told you a million times. So there we go. On that terrible impression, that's the end of your evidence. So before we get into the trial itself, there's just enough time to remind you that you can get in touch with us and give us your thoughts on Empress of Mars. Send us a comment for the live chat box on YouTube and we'll put them up on screen as they come in. We've got a few already, so I'll sift through them and we'll put some up in a bit. Voting is now open, so based on the arguments put forward by Cameron, Dave, and the artist formerly known as Frazer, who's now fake Dave, is Empress of Mars guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who? You get to decide. The final decision, as always, is yours. Go to Twitter at the Polis Box or click in the link in this episode's little description down there, just underneath the screen. I'll give you a link. You can go straight to the poll, cast your vote, and we'll reveal the results at the end of tonight's show. Right then, let's get this party started. As usual, the Polis Box guests go first. So, Frazer, do you want to give us your first point for the defence of Empress of Mars, please?
Well, I did have a big opening speech planned out for this episode. It was going to be fantastic. It was full of returning writers, really compelling underground settings and scenes, and sort of like the futility of war, to warring sides against each other, neither which could win. The start of like the Missy arc, make the Missy's redemption starting, Nardole getting dressed up as Braveheart. And that's the point where I realised I was preparing for the wrong episode. So I thought I was doing next week's showstopper, Meters of Light, not the Empress of Mars. So I was then tempted just to fall back on my usual tactic of saying, innocent until proven guilty. The prosecution's got to do all the work tonight. I can just sit back with a beer and just refute everything you guys say. But we won't do that either. So, because, I mean, it is an episode that is difficult to get a handle on, I think. It is one where, there's nothing for me as the champion of the damned to hang my hat on and say, this is, yes, it is a nice cold beer, Gareth. To say, this is, it's not like the Twin Dilemma where there's loads going on. It is quite a standard story, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. It's obviously a Mark Gatiss script. Mark Gatiss writes a very particular type of Doctor Who. My good friend Simon Hart says he writes in pastiche. So he, takes a sort of idea of a genre and presents that. So I think your mileage with Mark Gatiss' script, and especially this one, depends on for me, it depends on what comics you read when you were growing up. Because I don't know if you guys have got it north of the border, but when I was a bairn, there was a comic called Victor, which was, it was full of basically Mark Gatiss' wet dream. It was sort of like you had the Tarzan ripoff, Morgan the Mighty. It was every week there was cartoon strips of people in Spitfires going out and sticking the Jerrys and the Hun and all the rest of it, and that's the kind of world that Mark Gatiss lives in. So in a roundabout way, what I'm saying is this is a Mark Gatiss story, and we might as well just address him straight away, because a lot of the things that I like about this story are kind of woven into that that fabric. Was it Cliff Chapman who said he liked the names of this?
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
Cliff.
Because you watch this and it does just give you a very sort of nostalgic feel for things like Zulu, like Paul Quinn mentioned, and things like Sharp. Remember Sharp? Where Sean Bean didn't die for once. And, the name there, Catchlove, it's like Flashman, isn't it? And Jackdaw. Jackdaw's straight out of a Sharp novel. So this romanticized idea of the British Army is very much what we're getting here. And, I've no doubt the gentlemen on the prosecution are going to jump on this and say, haha, but the British Army were twats. Yes, and we have twats in this in this story. We have a right pair of twats. We've got Jack Daw and Catchlove, who are the officer class of twat and the conscripted class of twat. But it's just got such a lovely sort of nostalgic feel about it. This story that I can't help but just sit and be taken back to my childhood. Sit and reading those comics, those Victor comics, Roy the Rovers, that sort of stuff, and just, it just stirs something inside of me. So that's my first point.
I think even you don't have to go back that far. I mean, when I was watching this, I was thinking in the back of my mind that this is the episode of Doctor Who. If it wasn't written by Mark Gatiss, it would be written by Alan Moore.
Yes.
Because it screams like Extraordinary League of Gentlemen, absolutely, from the rooftops. And again, in the best way possible. It is that kind of old comic, as you say, the old kind of like, British comic book, Empire Heroes kind of thing going on, which was, I don't think Doctor Who's done since, or certainly not even before or since.
I think probably the closest we've come to comic books is Dave's favourite story.
I wonder what that could be.
Lazarus Experiment, which is pure Spider-Man versus Venom with cathedrals and whatnot. So, and who stars in that? I forget.
It's Freeman. Just on the face.
This is who plays
one of the best guest characters ever.
Name me no names.
Is it? It's not Mark Gatiss, is it?
Joe, I think you might be right.
Maybe, well, usually he has a passive moment in it too, doesn't he?
He didn't write that one though, because he wouldn't have wrote it as good as that.
No, that's why it was all right and watchable, because he didn't write it.
Yes,
so he's partially off the hook.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'll let my fellow prosecutor go.
You've, as everyone mentions, this is him writing Zulu, or taking the characters from Zulu and putting them in here. So you've got the two officers in charge, and then you've got the enlisted men. The problem I have with it is he has reduced those characters down to their most basic base elements. You've got the cowardly officer who turns out brave in the end, and you've got the officer who's all stiff upper lip, but then gets his Cockney accent back when he gets some power. Really like standard trope types. And then you get down to the working class men soldiers. You've got the man with his rank hath its privileges, and you horrible little man who's a sergeant, who's just the classic nonsense sergeant of like Cockney jelly deals. And then you've got the trooper who can't wait to get home and marry his sweetheart down at the church by the river. And it's like, give these people some actual character. Don't just fill it with tropes and go, he's ticking that box, he's ticking that box. Because you compare it to Zulu, and if you go back and watch Zulu, they're all actual characters. And I know it's only 45 minutes and they're not the main stars. You don't have time to make them that rounded. But don't make them one-dimensional caricatures either, because it's a waste of good opportunities. But there's also things like, yes, it's an homage to Zulu, and it's like the boys' own adventure stories. The one thing that really annoyed me about the military people in this is the guy was hung for cowardice. At what point did they hang him for cowardice? He doesn't get die and they go, all right, there's your new command over there. No, he'd get kicked out the fucking army. Like,
yep.
See, this the mark of the rope. I was lucky I didn't die. Well, how the fuck are you still in the military commanding a unit? Like,
or, hear me out here, you get packed off to Mars and expected to die.
Yeah.
But nobody knows about this massive scar around my neck when I'm on duty in a really hot African country. Nobody's noticed it.
Apart from Catchlove, which, if they've seen each other in a state of undress, and that's up to them.
But if an officer gets hung for cowardice and desertion, it gets mentioned. In like the Times of London and that kind of thing. There would have been a scandal. So it doesn't make. I love the character arc where he goes, "No, you know what? I'm finally going to stand up for my men, and then I'm going to sell out my men and my country and view loyalty to a different empress," which is treason, by the way. Like he said, "I'll now support you. You're my new queen." That's treason. So he's not a great character. But it's like I don't get how he's still in this one-sided single character military where they don't expand on them at all. And as soon as I heard them going, "Rank has its privileges, you horrible little man, I'm going to get married to my sweetheart," and then they start singing fucking Cockney rhyming songs, it's like, no, they are just so caricature and not real people anymore. And then you don't care when they get turned into bouncy boxes because you don't have any cares about them whatsoever.
Well, kids, if you didn't remember Sharp before, then there ain't no point going watching it now because my learning colleague has just investigated the entire series of TV shows and books for you. So, yeah, it's awesome.
About once a year, I watch the video of there's a supercut of Sean Bean, and all the times he said "bastard" and
Yorkshire
Sharp.
Day,
I watch
yeah.
that about once a year. Classic.
Do you watch it like I do annually on National Yorkshire Day?
Just occasionally, I remember it's there. My wife wonders why I'm walking around going "bastard" under my breath. It's a
It's a good thing to watch instead of the Queen's speech on Christmas Day, is it not?
Well, that's what it
I'd
sounds
take
like.
that.
I watch the Queen's speech or the King's speech now to bring us up to date.
Oh, the King's speech, yeah, exactly, yeah. Sorry. But
so, Cam, when you go.
I'm just imagining Sean Bean now giving the Christmas speech and just like, Christmas, the cameras, he'll go into Sean Bean, who sat in a drawing room with a big pint of bitter, and then just looks directly at the camera and just goes, "Bastard," and then just cuts.
Cue national anthem.
Yes, that's it. That's your Christmas message of hope from Sean Bean.
All this talk for Sean Bean's set off a whole conversation in the comments. Daniel Ronsley says Sean Bean also doesn't die in the heist film Ronin because Robert De Niro exposes him as a fraud and scares him off.
What colour is the boathouse in Hereford? That's the question.
Answers in a postcard. Joe Llewellyn also says Sean Bean survived The Martian.
No, he didn't because the Ice Warriors turned into a bouncy ball.
Has anyone played the Hitman games? Just as a side note.
Yes, but not for a while.
This one, I think, yeah.
Yeah, have you seen the DLC package that they did where Sean Bean was one of the main targets in it and he was nicknamed the Undying? It's great. Just chasing Sean Bean around Miami.
Oh, we've got a sing-song going in the comments now.
Let me go back to the live ones.
Gareth Foley and Melvin Pena are now singing the Sharp theme with each other.
O'er the hills and with the plains. Yes, through Flanders and Portugal
and Spain.
All together
King
now.
George commands and we obey. Over the hills and far away.
And they are more believable than the soldiers in this.
Oh dear.
I'm gonna leave them to their sing-song, those two.
See if poor Joe Llewellyn's watching this and he's wondering what the fuck is going on.
Oh no, I think
Did they get Sharp in the USA?
Joe Llewellyn's going to come in with the guitar solo any minute now.
He is here and he's enjoying his lunch.
Wow.
You're watching the Sean Bean podcast live. Anything more to add on Sharp or any Sean Bean's other major film or television roles?
Just one word. Bastards.
Bastard.
Okay then. Let's move on to the prosecution then. Guess Dave. Not our Dave,
Which
not
one?
fake Dave. That'll be you, Dave.
Might go again.
That was heavy, Dave.
I can't stand the confusion in my mind. Okay, Dave Rennie, let's have a point for the prosecution of Empress of Mars, please.
Well, my fellow prosecutor touched upon Mr. Mark Gatiss, and we've been talking about it a bit, but let's talk about Mr. Mark Gatiss. So this is a guy who, fan like us, wrote books, lived the dream, got the Unquiet Dead, Doctor Who's back on telly, waited his whole life to do it. But then it's almost like after that, oh, I've got to write another one and another one and another one. And I mean, by this point, we've endured what? The Idiot's Lantern, Victory of the Daleks, Night Terrors, Cold War. Any of them classic? I don't think so. And then we get this, which he says every time he writes an episode, bank holiday entertainment. Oh, it's a surprise. It's a period piece. Oh, what a surprise. It's not that memorable again. I mean, this is so generic. I mean, this story could have been written for any Doctor and companion. You've got Bill, who, for some bizarre reason in this one episode, is quoting movie titles. Doesn't do it anywhere else. She doesn't pop up in the next episode and go, oh, do you remember that one where the guy went, had two brains? No, it doesn't say that. It doesn't mention this any other time. You've got the Doctor saving the day. Well, that's original. Does it every single episode. And it's just full of things. There's nothing original in this. There's lots of things in this that are done so much better elsewhere. I mean, you've got the Doctor being a mediator between a human army group and an alien. Let me think. Doctor Who and the Silurians, maybe? Many other examples. You've got these stereotype characters, like Dave said. You've got a good version of a famous monster. We've got a good ice warrior that just, is making the tea and everything. Seen that before. We've got a new model, though, of an ice warrior that we've never seen before. Instead, we get this Bob Marley Ice Queen. I mean, I don't know what that's all about. And we've got, as I said, they even done the sacrilegious thing. One of the best things about the Ice Warriors was the sonic weapon they had. And they said they don't do that. They decide, well, yeah, let's just turn people into boxes just because we can. Not any better than the original effect, though. You've got rank has its privileges. Didn't the Brigadier see that? Alpha Centauri's back at the end. Oh, marvellous. There's nothing original about this whatsoever. I mean, even that, what was it, the Gargantuan machine? Wasn't that the same thing that was in the Monster of Peladon that blew up a cave? But at least you got Akador as a vision. You got a vision Akador in that. What do we get here? Doesn't really do anything, really. Just sort of... No, there's nothing original here. Nothing about the characters you want to follow. Nothing. It's so generic. It's dull Doctor Who, and it's just... I just think it's absolute crap. So there's my first point. Generic Doctor Who.
Wow.
I think there was the review I read of this episode, and they said that Mark Gatiss had finally managed to make a classic Doctor Who story in the modern series. And that's what this is. As you say, it could be written for any companion. It could almost be for any classic Doctor. But it brings nothing new, nothing up to date, nothing modern. Yeah, fine, he's made a modern, like a classic story in the modern series, but that's not something to aim for. That's just pure fanboy writing for himself. And this does nothing for Doctor Who. It brings nothing new in, updates nothing. It's just all the stuff he's tried before bundled into one, and it doesn't work.
Well, not really. I mean, it's Victorians on Mars. I mean, for fuck's sake, come here. When's a Doctor Who ever done Victorians on Mars?
Well, fine, not done Victorians on Mars, but Victorians, he's done it to death.
Well,
literally in some cases.
He's done them twice before now.
He could do Victorians in his sleep. It's nothing.
Funny enough, doing Victorian. No, we're not with that. But it's so he did The Unquiet Dead, which was Dickensian Victorian, so it's Christmas and it's snowy streets and it's urchins in London. You've got the Crimson Horror, which is the mills of Lancashire, and now he's doing sort of the colonialism in Africa. There's different elements of Victoriana. It's not just one thing that you point at and go, well, that's Victorian, that is. So he's really kind of embracing everything, like Talons of Wing Chiang. That's sort of like Jack the Ripper Victoriana. Doctor Who does all of these periods and looks at the more different elements of them. When he did Victory of the Daleks, it was Blitz, wasn't it? It was all about the Blitz element of World War II, but there's so much more to World War II. There's sort of like the French resistance element. There's sort of like the the campaigns in Japan and stuff like that. There's so many different elements of one period of history that you can look at just to say, well, this is just generic, it's just Victoriana. It doesn't hang together. Mark Gatiss himself. Sorry, go on. I shall let
No, I
you
was
count.
just going to say, if you go to your shelf though, would you take out the Talons of Weng-Chiang or this?
Probably
Seriously.
this. To be honest.
Really? Your Frazer.
Is anybody buying that? I'm not sure anybody is.
Well, I've got the Talons of Weng-Chiang on my shelf, not that shelf, the shelf over there.
I was going to ask, have you not got the Talons of Weng-Chiang? Is that why you're going for Empress of Mars?
No, I have got it, and I haven't watched it yet. I've got it on the collection Blu-ray, and I haven't got around to watching it, whereas I have got the Season 10 DVD, and I have watched this one, so case in point.
Well, yeah, you had to watch it to prepare for this anyway, so, you know. We're quite glad you've watched it.
But
we feel bad that you had to, but we're glad.
I watched it on iPlayer, though. I didn't get watched it on iPlayer. But interesting. Yes, obviously the Crimson Horror was one that you forgot to mention in your big list of shit Mark Gatiss stories there.
Yeah, but
funny that
was deliberate. Don't reveal that.
Yeah. Robot of Sherwood, you forgot to mention that one as well, which is a standout classic of season 8. Yeah, I think we can all agree on that one.
Debatable.
Yeah, no, it's great. But Mark Gatiss has written 9 Doctor Who stories this century. Who's written more Doctor Who than Mark Gatiss this century?
No
Probably
idea.
Russell T Davies.
That's it.
Yeah,
I'd imagine.
Stephen Moffat. Who else? Chris Chibnall.
Oh, Chibnall.
Yeah. So only the 3 showrunners have written more Doctor Who than Mark Gatiss. Mark Gatiss has written for the 9th Doctor, he's written for the 10th Doctor, he's written for the 11th Doctor, and the 12th Doctor. So that's 4 Doctors.
That doesn't mean it was a wise decision, though.
No.
But he keeps coming back, though, doesn't he? If he was
Yeah.
that bad, he wouldn't have the opportunity to write 9 episodes of Doctor Who. They would go, yeah, mate, that was a bit, don't come back. Thank you.
I mean, he does keep coming back.
Sherlock
but still-
Holmes.
He does keep coming back, but so does the smell of a dead pigeon underneath the floorboards.
Yeah.
Not by choice. You don't go out and contract a dead pigeon. You don't go, I've got the
Speak
shift
for
of that thing. You don't go, I've got rid of one dead pigeon under my floorboards, but you know what? My house smells a bit too fresh now, but I want another one in. Whereas people are...
He might be a steady pair of hands, but there's nothing original in this.
This is exactly
But
what
no,
he is. This is exactly what he is.
but that doesn't... But
yeah.
it's
Go
generic,
on.
though. It's nothing...
It's not generic.
It is.
I'm finding it really weird how the prosecution are pinning the generic label on a story that features the British Army going to Mars. Zulu on an alien planet, complete with God Save the Queen written in rocks that the modern day NASA find. It's, for a spark of inspiration, asking yourself, what if the Mars rover found God Save the Queen written on the surface of Mars and they don't know why? That is a fantastic starting point for a story, any science fiction story. Leaving out even Doctor Who, it's a fantastic starting point for that inspiration. Calling this generic is disingenuous at best.
No, you're right.
Well, we
It's a
can talk
great
about
inspiration.
this
But you get the inspiration, and you sit down at the office typewriter in the Doctor Who studios, and you go, right, so we'll set this in the Victorian era. Then Mark Gatiss just appears at the fucking window. You're not allowed to do anything without him.
He probably...
It's me.
I know. I can bring back the Ice Warriors, I said. Because I've been written the Ice Warriors before. Oh.
I don't think they'd even ask him. They just say, hey, we could do it. He goes,
Oh.
no, we're doing a classic one. They're like, oh, fuck's sakes. Can you not invent
I think
No.
there's a certain smell of street gas lamps that probably brings Mark Gatiss out of his crypt, I'll admit.
Okay, pigeon.
Yeah.
After what Fraser's just done, I've just got this vision of him in the video for Wuthering Heights now. But dressed as a guy from Creme Brulee instead of Kate Bush. It's a shit business.
And not every idea is particularly automatically good. I mean, if I'd heard that in a writers' meeting, oh, by the way, I'm going to have God Save the Queen by a Victorian soldier on Mars, I don't think I would automatically go, oh, that's a fantastic opening gambit for a Doctor Who story. I would be going, why?
I would be 100% for I give. Shut up and take my money. There you go.
Yeah. I'd be like, that sounds like an absolute belter. Let's crack on from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Knock that out.
What are you going to do? Oh yeah, we're going to have a comment on the British Empire, but imagining that the part of the empire was Mars. There you go. Take that in your pipe, H.G. Wells, and smoke the fucking thing. That would be, I'd be like, absolutely, let's do it. That sounds great. I would understand it if you were like kind of going, oh, it's ice warriors in the trenches in World War One, and it'd be like, bit Earth based, a bit dull.
I'd watch the shit out of that.
That actually sounds a better story to me.
But,
but Big Finish said no to me, so
I would listen to shit out of that. Don't worry, I'll go online and say it 3 times. It'll happen.
It'll happen, yeah. Just tell them. And I know someone who could write it.
Going back to the point of safe pair of hands.
Yeah.
So that is exactly what Mark Gatiss is. He is the new series version of the Bristol Boys. And they're not generic. No,
but Mark Gatiss
but they had good ideas.
Created it and Doug.
So does Mark Gatiss.
Bring it. I can bring back the Ice Warriors, or I can write about Robin Hood, who's been created for 700 years or something. I mean, it's
and it's a brilliant story, which we've already.
Give me the giant skull in Hyde Park that Bob Baker, Dave Martin were wanting to do. Give me that every time, other than this piece of shit.
But you can't have that. You can't have that because it's undoable. And this is the point of a safe pair of hands. The safe pair of hands is the person that you go to and you say, right, I have got 12, 13 stories that I need to fill here. I'm getting some new writers in, and I'm going to have to spend some time doing those. I've got some people where possibly I'm going to have to put a shift in, and I'm going to have to rewrite a lot of their stuff. What I want is someone who I know is really dependable, who can give me a script that I know I'm not going to have to do too much with, but more than anything is going to be workable, because he's a producer as well as a writer. He's a producer. He's got directing chops. He's got producing chops. He knows what can and can't be done. So that if you say to him, Mark, I want the script. What you want to do? Oh, I want to do God Save the Queen on Mars. Awesome. Go and do it, because I know what you're going to come back with is a script that's workable, because it's all going to be set underground. It's all going to be, we can set it up on a soundstage. We can film it dead easy, because it's all going to be very similar set. We'll just shoot it from a different angles. It's really workable, dead easy script. And that's exactly what Bob Baker and Dave Martin turned into at the end. They started off with batshit ideas, but Terrence Dicks had to say to them, guys, this isn't working. This isn't doable. You need to bring it down a bit. You need to give us stuff we can actually do. So by the end, by the time you get to sort of season 15, and they're saying, all right, there you go, mate. I've done you a 4-parter. 3 parts of it are set underground. Magic. What could possibly go wrong with that?
On the subject of Gatiss being a safe pair of hands, Harry Hussey suggests that it's just because Gatiss kept the showrunners supplied with special stuff. By special stuff, I mean ketamine.
Allegedly. Polish Box Legal Department, allegedly.
Yeah, the Polish Box Legal Department would like to point out that is not true of Russell T Davies. He prefers Coke.
Sorry, did you say Coke?
Yeah. Over Pepsi.
Oh yeah, over Pepsi, over John Nathan Turner's
dog. Yeah.
You sure that's what you mean? Because I heard he preferred high quality cocaine from Colombia. Well, I don't know. It's just a rumor that I heard somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. I don't know where.
Yeah.
No idea. Oh, okay. Have we got anything else to chuck in on that?
Before you move on, on Fraser's point, I do not want my Doctor Who to be a safe pair of hands and workable, because we've already got all the classic seasons and 10 seasons of Doctor Who before this. I want it to be moving forward. I want it to be new and different. And I will take the fucking Monk trilogy if it means it also gets me hell-bent and heaven sent. I will take the bad with the good as long as it's something new and different.
So you will take this episode so you get another one this season, is what you're saying?
No, I don't want it to be like this. I
But
don't
you'll
want to
accept
take
it. You'll take it. You'll take this as an episode in your series on the basis you're going to get a better one somewhere else.
I want them all to be better than this.
But you can't have them all. You can't have. You can't have.
But I want them to try.
Yes.
I'm happy for them to try and fail. I don't want them to go, right, we've tried and failed for 2/3 of the episodes in this series. Mark, write us some generic Victorian fucking classic monster shit. Whatever you do, I know it'll be fine. Nobody cares, mate. Here's your check. Give yourself a fan wank and then go home.
Isn't it a good thing then that he came up with something quite decent?
Did he? Because I
did.
didn't recognise it in this. Is he still writing the next one?
He did.
Yeah, that's the point I was making, is the fact that you'd rather have something which was undoable and try and make it work than something that is just, he could do it in his sleep. I mean, he probably wrote that in his sleep, but he probably got a... Yeah.
Speaking of sleep, that's one he did.
Yes.
You missed that one off your list.
Did I mention that one?
That's him trying to do something new and different, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
And I want more of that.
Yes. Whether it works is a different matter, but I'd love that.
So just to check prosecution, Daves, you would go to your shelf now and get Sleep No More out of the box and put it in your DVD player and watch that before bed ahead of this.
No, because I've got everything ripped on a media center, so I can just dial it up anyway. But yes, I would.
I don't think watching Sleep No More before you go to your bed's an advisable idea, given the content of the episode, is it?
Wait a minute. Isn't Sleep No More another episode that you champion, Fraser, as champion around?
That wasn't me. That was the lovely Joe Short.
Should point out to the prosecution that any discussions held outside of the courtroom cannot be brought forward as evidence tonight.
Very true,
nice try, but no.
And also, anything that we say about this episode cannot be used against us when we're doing future episodes.
Yes.
Well, maybe. We'll see.
Maybe. We'll see.
Taken out of context, obviously.
Of course. That's what we do. Okay. Before we move on to the next point, there's quite a lot been kicking off in the comments. Going back to Sean Bean again, Joe Llewellyn says, I know about Sharp, can't play a lick on a guitar. Bastards.
Nice. I just wasn't sure how that humour was going to go down across the pond. Hey, there you go.
Daniel Ronsley says there's more Daves here than in silence in the library. Harry Hussey backs that up by saying, hello, Dave. Can my wife use your toilet, Dave?
You're my wife now.
You're my wife now. Also, Daniel Ronsley says, Mark Gattis is a dead pigeon. Spread the word.
Yep.
And it goes on to be a bit more lyrical after that. Daniel Rogers says, most terrestrial men fancied there might be other men upon Mars, perhaps inferior to themselves and ready to welcome a missionary enterprise. Yet across the gulf of space, minds that are our minds, as ours are those dirty beasts that perish, intellects vast and cool and unsympathetic, regarding this earth with envious eyes. I am the Doctor. Finishing up by saying, and slowly and surely drew the plans against this war of the world, stirring the Ice Warriors.
Dun, dun, dun.
Coming soon to a Big Finish box set near you.
Oh, yes.
Chances of anything coming from Mars are limited to one, they say.
And each and every one of them
is that when they all land and have the battle cry of "Ooh la la Ward"?
That's the ones.
I'll get my coat.
Please, it's on the hook at the back of the door. You know where to find it.
Are you going to get?
Yeah.
Okay, then let's go back to the defence for the next one. So, Cam, you're up next. Let's have your first point for the defence of Empress of Mars,
what do we go for that we haven't? We have kind of had a bit of a whistle-stop tour, haven't we, so far, of doing everything? Anyway, right, okay, let's go with this. I was comparing this story to Demons of the Punjab, in the fact that I remember when Demons of the Punjab was broadcast, the British Empire-based kind of story and the historical setting were seen as being overwrought and overbearing for being so blatantly presented. Whereas here we are in Empress of Mars, where, yes, it is a story about British Empire, aren't they bastards? But it was wrapped up in much more of a fantastical science fiction story rather than as blatant as Demons of the Punjab was. So basically, if you were going to complain that Demons of the Punjab was far too on the nose, as a lot of the Chris Chibnall era was, that was the thing that was always put against it, then this is the antidote to that. And this is a comment on the folly of empire, but still done in a rocketing 45-minute long episode of Doctor Who. So let's put that one forward for you. The Empire story is well integrated into this script.
For one thing, I would say that, Cam, your mic is a little bit vibraty on my end. But it might just be me.
There's a touch of crackle going on, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a touch of crackle.
Yes. But yeah, that goes back to my point of them being generic military types and not actually believable as characters. The story of the British Empire is well known and discussed quite a lot. Yes, Demons of the Punjab talks about it, but it's a very removed thing. Like, we don't see the British Empire personified in Demons of the Punjab. We just hear about the things that they've done and the trouble that they've caused. Here we get to see the troops, but as my point made earlier, they're not really believable as human beings. Like, that's like the base minimum is believable that they could be soldiers in the British Army. And it's hard to believe that there would be a black Cockney talking about marrying his sweetheart down by the river at the church with the bent spire, and everyone would know which church he meant, even though they were all Cockneys. Like, it just doesn't make sense that this is a unit in the British Empire military, for me. So yes, the stories of Empire are quite rightly important and need to be told, but I don't believe this as a story of Empire. And I think even if it was, it would be undercut by the finally heroic officer who's learned the error of his ways joining another queen who wants to expand her empire. So yeah, I can see why you're saying that Empire stories are important because of what the Empire did, but I don't think this tells any stories about the Empire or moves any of that forward.
I mean,
is it not though that? Sorry, Fraser, carry on.
All I was going to say is, if Sharp has taught me anything, it is that generally soldiers around this time were bastards, and that's exactly what we're presented with. So I don't really see the issue in saying, you know, these people are presented as these people were at this time. Yes, there might be, you know, we could potentially do more with them. And I think it goes back to what Cliff was saying in his. Was it Cliff? I think in the viewer evidence of, you know, this story could really do with another 2 parts, and it probably could, to be honest, to, you know, to really let us go down into the sort of colonial stuff on both sides. You know, we've got 2 things going on here. We've got Friday and Araxa as the ice warriors, you know, coming to terms with the fact that their planet is now dead, and, you know, what are they going to do? Are they going to still keep, you know, fighting everyone that comes along the way? Or are they going to adapt to survive? And then you've got like the British contingent, and yes, we have got these backstories of Vinci with his sweetheart that he's you know, going to marry in the church. You're dead, mate. You are dead any minute.
Yes.
You know, and you know, Catchlove being the officer bastard, and Jackdaw being the bastard. But you know, there's nothing unreal about this. There's nothing to suggest actually this isn't what the British Army was like at this time. You know, it's an empire story, but the empire, the British Empire is portrayed in a very sort of realistic way, not the sort of, for all that we've said, you know, Mark Gatiss has this romanticized version of the past, and he lives in, you know, rose-tinted Victorland and Boy's Own stuff, and, you know, Biggles and everything. You know, the characters that you presented, you know, are, you know, they're there. They're not there on the moon specifically to conquer the moon for Queen Victoria. They are there for money. They have went there for jewels. Friday, the Ice Warrior, has, you know, sold them capitalism. Basically, he's not said, you know, I'll give you Mars if you help us get home. They've said, you know, come and I'll give you a big bag of diamonds. So that's kind of real to what the British Empire was about. There was nothing about, you know, the glory of Queen Victoria. It was all about money. It was about going to these places and strip mining them of what they've got, and then leaving them, as we're seeing in Deems and Punjab, in a pretty perilous position. So that works. That really works for me. I believe.
I think there's a...
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, no, carry on, Fraser. Finish what you're saying.
Oh, no, I'm done.
Okay. I think I was just going to add on the end there, I think there's an interesting parallel here between both sides of this battle following a queen. So there are, you know, to war, essentially, and how that they share so much in common despite being opposing factions in that sense.
Definitely.
And you can look at the extent that the Martians are the classic traditional natives. They've got their own system, they've got their own queen, and now they're losing all of their resources. And according to the end of this story, what they have to do is fuck off somewhere else. Which is largely how the British military treated the natives.
Mm-hmm.
But what they might have really done in real times is make them their slaves and make them work for them. And kill the queen, because that's usually what they did. So I can see that the Martians are meant to represent traditional natives against the Empire. But again...
You could easily flip that over, though, as the Martians are sort of the British at the end of colonialism, at the end point where, you know, nothing's left. Nothing's left. The coffers are empty. We've fought wars. We've fought 2 world wars, and now we've got nothing to pay, so now we need to back out, and we need to fuck off, and we need to find a better way of doing things. Our little empire is done, so we need to go and find our Alpha Centauri.
So what you're saying is that this episode is actually a really prescient prediction of Brexit.
It could well be, yes. I think it probably works on more levels than we'll give it credit for up to this point.
Also, I think it's worth noting that the Colonel is the one who finds the lone Ice Warrior and becomes Friday. When at the end of the episode, has he not himself become the Friday to the Ice Warrior Queen?
He has.
And that, I think, is a rather deft switching, again, of sides. Mark Gatiss in this script has picked up a lot of the defined, you know, similar traits that these two sides have and work them into a nice little circle.
Yeah. And I think if Mark Gatiss was sort of writing this as a classic story of Doctor Who, where we had 4 episodes or even 6 to play with, we would probably get a lot more out of this. We would get a lot more. He's kind of having to rush through a lot. You get to Mars very quickly. You wake up the Ice Queen very quickly. You have a fight very quickly. You have another fight very quickly, and then you have your resolution very quickly because you've only got 45 minutes. You know, give him a lot more time. Spread this out a little bit. You have got a lot of opportunities to make it a bit more 2-dimensional for you, Dave, for your characters, and you know, make the allegories not quite as subtle as maybe they are.
Yeah, I think the problem is that they're caricatures. I mean, watching it the other day, I knew already the plot anyway, obviously, but it wasn't surprising that at the end, the one who's nearly been hanged is going to be the hero. I mean, that wasn't very big surprise, was it? Really. The only thing I wanted to bring up on the Empire thing was, I remember a couple of weeks ago, the argument that you had, Dave, was that people were speaking in a silly accent on the extremists, going, "No, speak like that," and all that.
It is the Pope.
I'm going to bring up the same thing here, because some of the lines in this, I thought, did they really speak like this? Really?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
Some of the lines in this. I mean, dead as a coffin nail. Sweet Fanny Adams, you'll get your share of the rhino. I mean, is anyone speaking like a human being back in Victorian time?
Again, I've read Sharp, and that's like a historical document. That's like just basically fact.
And I think the best line that comes up, the best line that's on the episode is, the whole show's been a ruddy washout. I would agree that with this episode.
I mean,
yeah, I thought, what are they talking about?
I imagine there probably was a bit more bastard in the British time.
Of course.
But ultimately, that ain't going to make it a Doctor Who.
And knowing my dad was in the army when I grew up, knowing the British military system as I do, that lone black trooper would have had a nickname, and it would not have been broadcastable on the BBC. Maybe in the 70s, but not now.
No.
But you would still have been there. You would have still been in the army.
Probably, yes. But on the subject of accents, is it only me that was really confused by some of Peter Capaldi's pronunciations?
Yes, it was only you.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Says, I see this going very well, or very bidly. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you the French policeman in Hello, Hello? What's going on with that? Because he says later, I have a bad feeling about this. And it's like,
oh, God.
On what?
I've now just got the image of them opening a cupboard door in a lower low, and out pops, oh, it is Officer Capaldi.
I've just got the prisoner. I'm going, then good morning.
I was pissing by in my TARDIS.
You stupid woman. Of course I'm going to save the day.
Listen very carefully, Bill. I'll say this only once.
Bastard.
One word. While on the subject of army talk, Joe Llewellyn has, referring back to the rank has its privileges comment from earlier on, Yates taking Sergeant Benton's food was one of the most egregious acts of military stupidity in the show's history. And so much of the crew were military veterans. An officer eating before the troops, is a serious no-go for my army.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah.
Take that, Mike Yates.
That's Mike Yates all over for you.
Yep. Bastard.
Right then, let's have one more point before we go for a half-time break, and that means it is Original Dave who's going to give us a point for the prosecution of Empress of Mars.
It's a point that's been touched on a couple of times, but it's really been overlooked, and it's the way Bill is treated in this story. Through this series, we've been building Bill up the whole time. We've started with, oh, she's a lesbian, and then she carries Knock Knock on her own. She's like the lead of that story. The last episode we saw, she saved the world, and she's a huge character. And this, she is reduced to being a woman. That's the only useful thing she does. It's mentioned twice. You're a woman. That's it. And it's a shame because we see her turn up and she looks the part. She looks proper. Like she's got her hair plaited. She's got a nice proper military looking spacesuit on. And they go, I need a distraction. You go talk to the only other woman on this set. And they go, all right, I'll go talk to the other women. Hi there, I'm a woman. Remember me? And that's it. That's the only thing she gets to do. And it's a shame because they've built her up so much to be a great character who's rounded and inquisitive and asks questions and moves plots forward. And Margate has come in and just reduced her to being one of the two women on set. And it's such a shame and such a waste. Yeah, he doesn't know how to write for this character. because he's got her, as you say, randomly being a movie critic and mentioning films, which she doesn't do before or after. And she doesn't get used at all with all the things that she's been built up for. And it's just a complete waste. And yeah, I don't know if it's because he, as a gay 50-year-old white man, doesn't know how to write for a 20-year-old black lesbian. But fuck it, write for a person. She's got heroic traits. Let her be a hero for a while. Don't just push her off to the side. I mean, he does it with Nardole as well. He goes, I don't know how to deal with this. Nardole goes off in the TARDIS. We don't know why. It's never explained. Fuck it. Gets rid of him.
Yeah.
And he goes, Bill, I don't know what to do with you. You're a woman. Full stop. That's it. You're a woman. That's all you do in this storyline. And then he writes for everyone else. Not well, but he writes for them. And I just think it's a massive drop in her character strength and levels that he drops her like that.
Does he though?
Fair point, Fraser. Yeah.
I mean, the thing about Bill, you've said it yourself. Bill for me always feels like Moffat writing himself as the companion. If you think to the 11th Doctor always kind of felt like that was Moffat writing himself as the Doctor. Whereas with Bill, I always get the impression he's writing himself as the companion. He's like, if I was the companion, this is what I would be doing. I'd be asking, where's the toilet in the TARDIS? You know, all the silly questions that no one in 60 years, 50 years, whatever, has bothered to ask. I would be asking all of these. And that's really kind of Bill's USP, isn't it? You know, she is really inquisitive. She really, you know, she has a different view on things. She has a different perspective to everyone else that's kind of come before. So she is seeing things in a very different way. And I don't think she loses that at all in this. I think, you know, there is, you know, the scene where they are with Colonel Strangename, and you know they've been locked up, and you know they're having a conversation, and Bill is very involved in that conversation. She's not sort of like a Dodo or a Joe Grant, just kind of like, what are we going to do now, Doctor? How do we get out of here, Doctor? She is still really involved in that. To go back to where's Nardole, there's just not enough plot. He jumps in the TARDIS goes, and there's no plot for you here, mate, and off it goes for reasons just basically to get Nardole.
He doesn't just bugger off. He's going to get ropes and things like that to rescue Bill, isn't he? It's like he just kind of just slips into the TARDIS and that's it.
Yeah. So but the reason is basically if Nardole is in this story where you have got the British Army and we're trying to do something with them, and we've got the Ice Warriors and we're trying to do something with them, we've got Araxa and Friday and Catchlove and Jackdaw and Godsake and Nardole's there. Nardole's got even less to do than anyone else. You know, Nardole's just going to be sitting in the back eating popcorn and quoting film references as well. So, you know, and ultimately Bill is probably suffering as much as Capaldi is as well. Who was it in the evidence that said Capaldi felt unengaged? And
Daniel Rawnsley.
You know, the reason for that is probably because we are not used to Capaldi not having a big speech.
Yep.
By this point, the writers have stopped thinking of him as Malcolm Tucker and they've started thinking of him as the 12th Doctor, and they generally give him a big fuck off monologue at some point that he can really get his teeth into and dazzle us with. He doesn't get that in this episode. Gatiss doesn't want to give him one. He gets some more subdued moments where he's trying to talk the Ice Queen Araxa out of slaughtering everyone, because he knows there's nothing there. Little musket bullets are going to do against her. It's all going to be bouncy balls from our soul till Christmas. So he has that moment, but he doesn't have that big standout speech like he's going to get next week, or he's had in previous weeks. That's probably why he feels a little bit flat. Is just he hasn't been given as much to do. He still gets a few good comedy lines because Gatiss more than anyone else knows, and he's shown that in From Wilbur to Sherwood onward, that Peter Capaldi is an exceptional comedy actor, and if you give him comedy to work with, he will absolutely blast that. So you have that. We're talking about these these film references. Why we're getting all these film references? Well, because it's funny at the end where he's straddling the Gargantua and he tips her the wink. Oh, Frozen, that's a film. You know, and he can slip that that Star Wars reference in. I've got a bad feeling about this. You know, so we have, you know, little sprinkles of comedy in there. But maybe going back to Bill, yeah, I didn't feel that when I watched that. I didn't feel, you know, Bill has been side any more than anyone else, because, like I say, there's just a bit too much going on for anyone to really get, you know, a chunky bit of the action. But I didn't necessarily feel Bill was misserved.
It's a script where she's literally got a spotlight shone on her at one point because the main antagonist, asks her about her opinion because they are surrounded by noisy men.
Yes.
And it's like that, for being a female character, you're saying that guys can't write female characters. There is moments where they are, the two main female characters are literally brought together and comment on how, ludicrous their surroundings are and how, they're surrounded by idiots, basically.
Yes, the Ice Queen turns around and literally says, "You, the only other woman in this episode, we are defined by the men that surround us." Which is...
I think that's a direct quote.
It is, yeah, that was the line. But it's...
That line. I'd have to go back and check that.
Maybe slightly paraphrasing.
Trust me on it.
Are you saying he's just making up lines to... Making up
I think he's maybe just. I think he's just maybe sort of gaslighting everyone into believing that there's lines that exist in this show that not necessarily were there in the original first place.
If that's what's happening, you are Joe Ford, and I claim my £5.
Gaslighting is not a real thing. You've made that up because you're mental.
Okay.
Case closed. You can't argue against that, can you?
Yep.
Can't argue against that. No. Hello, is that the police? I'd like to. I'm in an abusive relationship.
But in the question of people writing themselves as the Doctor or the companion, who is Mark Gatiss writing as himself in this? Like, is he writing pretending he was the Doctor, or is he just pretending he is still 12 and watching Classic Who and growing up watching Peladon, and he just wants to watch that again, which is why he's trying to remake it. Which is why, again, there's not enough for anyone in this story, because he's trying to squeeze a 6 or 4-parter into 45 minutes, and he's having to throw so much.
And then the thing he's got people,
enough.
And then the thing he's actually got people doing is things that we've seen all before.
Yeah,
as you say, it's Peladon all over again.
If he was trying to remake Curse of Peladon, though, would he not have Araxa try to marry Bill?
Maybe. But with the BBC letter.
That would have been interesting.
Imagine the reception at that wedding, eh?
But yeah, if he's writing this, there's not enough for Nardole, so he gets rid of Nardole, and there's not much for Bill or the Doctor. Why is he writing this if he's not got enough story for the Doctor and the two companions? That makes it not a Doctor Who episode anymore. It makes it some random sci-fi. So he's either got the wrong brief, or he's just doing whatever the fuck he wants, and it doesn't work.
Or
was it in Moffat's error that they didn't? Sorry.
No, go on. I've made my point.
No, I was just going to say, isn't it under Moffat's error, it's infamous that he wasn't doing what Russell T Davies did and was editing a lot of the scripts. So Gatiss, that would explain why this movie dialogue only happens one episode, wouldn't it? Because there's no... all it needed was somebody to say, "Oh, that wait a minute, doesn't he do that?"
Yeah. Somebody to supervise it and say, "We've seen this.
Where's the script editor?
Yeah. Where's the
Who
show
was the script editor
runner?
on this?
Who's running this show through the series? Apparently nobody.
Who is it?
Okay, right. If everyone's finished with that particular point, I've got a couple of comments to squeeze in before we go for a quick break. Yep. Okay. In response to Cam's slight sound issues earlier on, Gareth Foley says, "I thought Cam was doing a Centauri homage with his sound." I'll be getting in costume as well later on, Gareth. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah, just a little bit.
And Cam, your husband's chatting up other men again. I mean, honestly, good grief, doesn't Frazer look handsome? Never mind his arguments. He must win on those grounds alone. Also, the soldiers get turned into bouncy balls. How fun.
It's all about the balls, that man.
So if Frazer looks handsome, fuck the rest of us. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's basically what he did say.
Frazer looks handsome, but so yeah, I was going to say Frazer looks handsome, but fuck the rest of us. Give him time.
Which one of us is Mr. Tuesday? I forget whose turn on the road it is today. Right then, let's go and have a few minutes break. Come back for the second half of the trial. Just a reminder before we do that, you can cast your vote on the arguments that the guys have made so far tonight. Click on the link in the episode description of this video you're watching right now. It'll take you straight to the poll, or go to @thepolisbox on Twitter. There's plenty of time left in the poll to cast your votes. We will take
plenty of time left in the poll.
Plenty.
Tons of time.
See, this is why I set it for 3 hours.
Days and days and days.
Always be prepared. Right, let's go for a few minutes break. When we come back, we'll resume the trial of Empress of Mars. We'll see you in a few minutes' time. And we're back for the second half of tonight's Sharp podcast. Sorry, I meant the trial of Empress of Mars on the Polis Box Live. The vote pretty close at the moment, has to be said, so there's not much in it. A reminder that Cam can win the series tonight if it goes to a not guilty verdict. So there's still plenty of time to get your votes cast and influence the outcome. All the instructions at the bottom of the screen. Right then, let's crack on with the second half of the trial then, and go back to Dave Rennie. Let's have another point for the prosecution of Empress of Mars, please, Dave.
Let's see what we've got left here that we've not talked about. Katzlov. Yeah, this actor. Now, I don't mind a Doctor Who villain not being a three-dimensional, got a backstory. You know, he had something happen in his childhood, and this is what it shapes what he is. For example, we've had umpteen examples in Doctor Who. We've had like Solomon and dinosaurs in a spaceship, which I did recently in my podcast. He's just a rotter. That's fine. Don't have to know much about him.
He's a bastard, you might.
But this guy, he's a bastard. But this guy, I thought, when I watched it back, this is one of the worst, best artist performances for me in Doctor Who. I mean, this isn't even a old-fashioned killer guy or something. I mean, he's a walking cliche, this guy. I mean, he's supposed to be this upper-class British toff in the army, and he's just... I couldn't describe how much I hated his performance. I mean, he's walking around brushing his hair, raising his eyebrows, having looks of, ha-ha, I'm a bad guy, ha-ha, sort of performance. And that bloody tash as well, which just needed to go. I mean,
right for twiddling.
I mean, some of the lines he's got. I mean, he's walking around saying like, "Oh, it's pretty roomy." I didn't like the. I think the guy is literally sending it up and isn't taking it seriously. That's what I think about this guy. I mean, so calling an ice warrior an upright crocodile. I mean, come on, that's going too far as well. And the final line, of course, is the classic one. And we've talked about the British Empire and the British Empire bad and so on. But the line he had where it's, we're British, or just get lost, just get off my telly. I mean, there's the bit where he's at the Gargantuan and he has a bit of hissy fit saying, no, turn it off, God damn you, turn it on. And yeah, there's no subtlety in his performance whatsoever. I thought this actor thought he was on the pantomime in December. He's at the King's Theatre doing some other show. I mean, I'm not quite sure what he was doing. I just hated his performance. He's just a walking pantomime villain. And yeah, Neville Katzlov's in charge. Fuck off, quite honestly. I didn't like him. I thought it was a silly character, silly performance.
Dave,
There's a bit at the end of that where he drops the accent.
Yes.
Not now Neville Critchlove's in charge, which just screams that there's more of a character there. And he's like some poor boy that's pretended he's an officer and done his way up the ranks, or something. Something that would make him an actual character that you'd have understanding of. But instead, he's just, yes, a moustache-twirling evil bloke. And that's all the character is. And he's just useless for it.
Dave, do you want to know a secret? You're not supposed to like him. He's the bad guy. You're not supposed to like him. You're supposed to think he's a bastard. That's the point. I mean, he's a
heel.
He's a heel, yes.
I mean, your learned colleague there has made a point that, these characters are all cliches, they're all one-dimensional, they are just easily identifiable as what they are through a few lines, and now you're saying you don't like that?
But they can still. I didn't like his acting at all.
You didn't like his yes, exactly. But that's he hasn't written the script.
No, but he doesn't. But he's made the decision. He's made the decision as an actor. I'll just brush my hair and raise my eyebrows. I'm the bad guy. Like,
because you've just said he's a cliche. So he's acting a cliche. He's doing.
Yeah, but he's not playing it real. He's not playing he's not playing it for real.
He's not a believable bad guy because he's an actor playing a bad guy, which is the problem. He is obviously acting the whole time and overacting and chewing the scenery and going, "Oh, look at me, I'm evil. I wonder if I'll get my comeuppance." And it's like, just fucking no. Be a character. Not a caricature.
He does exactly what is demanded of that character. That character is the mustache twirling, scenery chewing Dick Dastardly of the piece, and Ferdinand Kingsley plays the Dick Dastardly, mustache twirling bastard of the piece.
And that's
he does exactly
wrong with this.
He does exactly what he's paid to do.
Also, I think we're pointing out is Ferdinand Kingsley not also in Ripper Street?
Stand by.
So therefore, this kind of stuff, this kind of era is not unfamiliar to him. Is what I'm trying to point out. I'm 99% sure he's in Ripper Street. Yeah. Live research on the Polish box.
The silence is we all Google this at the same time.
I'm not Googling nothing. I'm 99% sure he's in Ripper Street.
He is in Ripper Street, indeed.
There we go.
Yeah, so there you go. So this isn't like totally fresh territory for him. He's obviously been brought into this because he's had experience of these kind of roles for this kind of era of roles.
He's also in Victoria.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it, the man in real life has the name Ferdinand Kingsley, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? I think he's of a certain lilt for this already. You know, this is what we're talking about. I mean, I think a lot of this, I think what we've discussed so far over this evening, what we haven't really sort of identified, but I think we need to, is the fact that there's a difference between this being an accurate historical representation of characters at the time and it being a homage to like British adventure comic books. And I think it does lean more towards the comic book side of things. So you are going to get your obvious moustache twiddling, Dick Dastardly bad guys, as he is. But I think once you've got that through your head and you establish that, he's having a fucking whale of a time, this guy. And he plays it really, really well. As we know, you hate him, you detest him, you're meant to. And I think he just goes to great lengths to ensure that you don't. He is utterly believable for me as a British upper-class toff who has no fucking regard for anyone else that he sees as below him. He is a Tory Prime Minister in waiting. He is absolutely grade A, on the nail, to the point. The man done good.
Yep.
I think he's a very bargain basement, Peter Jeffrey.
He has a
Don't make
brief.
him basic briefs.
He's been given a brief and he nails that brief with gusto.
Mm-hmm.
If
Exactly.
the brief was to be a bad actor, then yes, he nails it.
It was to be a bastard, a posh bastard.
Yes.
And he goes, wonderful, let's have some fun with this.
And then he drops the posh accent at the end, which is just confusing. Which is either a writing choice or a directorial choice or an acting choice.
It's a little dimension for you, Dave. Just a little one. Just a little tiny dimension for him.
I think when he delivers the line, Neville Catchlove is in charge, I think it's the character more saying that so that he will believe it himself rather than try to tell everyone else. I think at that point he is in a moment of panic. He's realised that his actions are rapidly catching up on him. So therefore he is deep down terrified. And that is why that slip comes out.
You have just added more to that character than anything that happened in the
Than
45
anything he's
minutes of
done,
the
yeah.
episode.
But it was all there. It was all there.
It's all there. It's all on the screen.
All on the screen.
It's not my fault I can write stuff.
Well, Big Finish don't seem to think you can, but it's...
Big Finish don't think I can, but other people do. And that's all that matters to me.
On the subject of Ferdinand, apparently.
That's www.cameronphillipswriter.co.uk. Thank you very much.
All the writers are available.
Yes, but not as cheaply as me. No, sorry. Union rates.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Gandhi's son.
Yeah, Ben Kingsley's son, apparently.
There you go.
There you go.
Who says the Polis box isn't educational?
Anybody who watches it, really.
Who says that? We'll hunt them the fuck down.
We've got a reputation to uphold here.
Yes, we've got a reputation for pure ass shite to uphold here.
We'll hunt them down and tell them knob jokes. That's what we'll do.
Yep. We are the ones who brought electric pubes to a conversation on the Time Lash. Come on.
Our finest hour, I think you'll find. Yeah.
Yep, our finest hour. To the point where it's now not even on their feed anymore.
Airbrushed from history once again.
Airbrushed from history again.
Okay, let's go to the defence for the next point then. So that'll be Frazer. Let's have another point for the Empress of Mars defence, please.
Yeah, with pleasure, because there's loads. I will try and condense a few together, though, and we're just going to talk about the look of this episode. The set design, the costume design, the direction, I think is all really, really good. It's Wayne Yip that is directing, and there's some really lovely shots. I think ones that kind of stand out is at the start where you've got the first reveal of Friday and he comes charging down the tunnel towards the Doctor, and that's all handheld camera, right in his grill. Nice tracking shot as he storms in. So there's some really, really good bits of direction in there. I think the set design as well, obviously it's caves. What can you do with caves? Well, the lighting, you can light them, you can make it red because it's Mars, and you can, put firelight in there, and you can have proper, because yes, I have watched Sharp, which I say is a historical document, actual, as close as you're going to get to being there. So we know that that's exactly what a sort of 19th century British army tent would look like. The whole design of the Ice Warriors this time as well. Yes, we mentioned Cold War, where skinny Shrek pops out of his suit, but he stays in the suit for this time, and you've got Friday with his missing eye and the damage to the helmet. But above all, you've got Iraxa. What did you call him, Dave? Bob Marley, Ice Warrior?
I did.
Yeah, but again, it's a really good design. There's more than a bit of Borg Queen about Iraxa at this point. And so you've got the dreadlocks, you've got the helmet. It's kind of like the classic Ice Warriors where you have like the Ice Marshal and the helmet, the ones with the rounded helmets are in charge. So it's kind of harking back to that as opposed to just the stubby little flat top design of the other ones. And the scene where she starts waking up the Ice Warriors and just the silhouettes all get lit up as the camera pans around, lovely tracking shot. It was Darren Roundels, I think said this looks flat and uninterested, and probably used other words, but I would completely disagree. I think this does look really sumptuous. It's got such a rich sort of dense feel about it, with those, you can almost sort of like feel the smoke from those fires clagging up the caves, and love the look of it. The end.
I think it's one of those Doctor Who stories that we can say the phrase does a lot with very little.
Also known as all style, no substance.
Yeah.
No, it does a lot with very little. I think that's what I said. Did I stutter?
Oh, somebody's getting past his bedtime.
It's been up too late now. Tough shift at work.
I'm going to work tomorrow again. Yeah, it was.
Yes, it looks good for what it is, and what it is a rewritten classic story with better cameras. It's hard to make it look like anything else than what it was, which is a bunch of classic model Ice Warriors in a cave. And a bunch of men dressed like they're cosplaying for Zulu in a cave. And yes, it's a Martian cave, so it's kind of red, but that's about it. Obviously, you need to differentiate the Empress from the other Ice Warriors, so give her dreadlocks for no good reason. And give her pointy teeth because it's funny. And that's what they've done. There's nothing, again, particularly new in this. There's nothing inspiring. There's nothing original. It's the same stuff we've seen before to an extent. It looks good, but it looks exactly as you'd expect a Mark Gass Set on Mars episode to look. Because it's in a cave / quarry, it's all red, and it's got a classic monster in it. And that's it.
I'm glad we all agree we would expect a Mark Gatiss Set on Mars Victorian story to look good.
I'd expect it to look like
it's just very red.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the red planet.
Yeah, I mean, it does look good. Yes, it's a planet, but can you imagine if this one was in black and white? It's probably better.
What if, like, you had a Doctor Who episode directed by Akira Kurosawa? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Oh, here he goes. Mozart 1 week, Carousel this week.
Oh,
Mark Kermode.
Sorry for being a wee bit intellectual.
Just a wee bit.
It does look good, but it's just it's one of the things, because it's set on Mars. It's just all red. Every set, everywhere it goes is red. I wouldn't say that's anything special to say.
No.
To quote Gareth Bowley in the comments, how else would you do Mars?
I just said I'd put it in black and white.
Valid question.
Don't ask that question to Mick Jagger. If you know, you know.
I know.
And then we've got the start. We've got this NASA station at the start. What do we think of that?
The NASA cupboard, as it looks like.
NASA cupboard.
But yeah, it's 12 people sitting in a room with a telly on the wall. Counting down to this result.
It's literally the first minute and a half of this episode, so you're not exactly going to go great guns, are you? The bulk of this is in Mars.
It's, I mean, we've all seen Apollo 13, so again, historical record that shows what NASA looks like, and it is just people in a room looking at screens.
Yes, but considering the amount of money they spaffed up the wall for the Monk trilogy, they could have
We've done the Monk trilogy, Dave. You 1-2-1. Get yourself over it.
But considering the money they must have spent on that, surely they could have had more than just a classroom with a telly wheeled on a trolley like it looks like they've done here.
But why would you?
If the whole episode was going to be the Doctor
in NASA,
sorry,
yeah, If there
Yeah,
was more,
the doctors are going to be after then, it would be fine. But yeah.
You would probably think, yeah, okay, then spend a bit more, make, I don't know, put a plant in the corner, because at the end of the day, a room with monitors is still a room with monitors. But it goes back to what you're saying before. You're going to take something away from another episode this season by doing that.
Yes, but maybe if they took some stuff away from others, this would have been better.
So-
instead of just making it generic.
What do you want to lose from World Enough in Time?
I'd lose things from like.
No. You don't get to pick. You don't get to pick. You don't get to pick.
I think you'll find that I do, young man.
All right, Dad.
Because
I don't know what I'd pick, because I don't know how much budget would have needed to improve it. Probably not a lot. You probably could have saved it on some of the cocaine budget, or the crow budget for when Mark Gatiss arrives in the room. You have to have crows because he just likes that kind of thing.
The crows are next week.
Or the money
The
that
other-
was
the
saved
other
by
thing
not
is-
hiring a Nepo baby and Ben Kingsley's son. You know.
The other thing we've not talked about is Mark Gatiss is so great that our opposition is saying, but he's never came back since this episode.
Yeah. It's almost like by the time he'd written this,
Why?
he'd run out of ideas, run out of energy, and just threw any old traditional shite together to get the paycheck, and then go off and back and make more Sherlock.
He's all.
See, I think when you're busy with Sherlock, and there's maybe, I mean, what do we have after this? We have Chris Chibnall, who maybe wants to take the show in a different direction. So therefore,
A new direction that's not remakes of old stories, using old monsters and just, one-dimensional characters.
well, possibly we're not talking about that yet, are we?
No, we're not.
Not yet.
Tune in next time.
Not yet,
when
anyway.
play the
We
Force
might.
Hackers.
Who knows?
Tune in next series.
Or if you're watching this a few months down the line, just go and watch it now.
Yeah.
So that means it's going to be Whittaker next time. Is this a scene between Cam and Dave that whoever wins this series is going to be Whittaker? This series next, is it?
Yeah, series champion gets the choice in the next series. So
yeah,
yep.
So it could be
So it's going to be a
spoilers.
Whittaker then, just to.
I'm going to make Cam defend Flux next if I win. Vote for me.
Oh,
I could have a go at that. I could have a go at that.
Same for the end of the
Easy,
season.
6 easy wins there.
Yeah.
Defending Flux.
Yep, it's a classic. They're a classic, whichever it is.
Yeah.
That's for a series filler down the line. Who knows? Maybe the next one. It depends on what happens tonight. If Cam gets to pick, then yeah,
We'll see. We'll see. It could be a lock in tonight, but we'll see.
Okay. Right. Let's go. Where were we? That was defence. So let's go to prosecution. Dave, original Dave, up in the top right hand corner. Let's have your
Classic
next
Dave.
point.
Not
Classic
new recipe, Dave.
Let's have your next point of the prosecution, please.
Does that mean we'll have a classic Dave, a new Dave, and a Disney Dave?
Which
Yeah.
one's going to get cancelled first, though?
Which one's RTD 2.0, Dave?
Which one's I want to be?
I'll be the older classic racist Dave. That's what I usually do.
Okay.
You can fight out between the other two for the mouse money, whoever wants it.
So for my last point for the prosecution,
Mhm.
I've done a lot of prosecution points now about the fact that there's nothing new in this, and there's a lot of underused stuff. The thing that I found annoyingly had changed is the Ice Warriors. The last time we saw the Ice Warriors, it was in Cold War, and the Ice Warrior in that, admittedly he was a general, so he was senior, had more knowledge, all that kind of nonsense. But he was a proper threatening bad guy. He was hiding around a submarine, dragging people in out of the shadows, killing people, properly tactical, strategic, the whole thing. The Ice Warriors in this are just shouty, angry idiots. From the Empress on down, she shouts, "No, you must all die." What? Must not die? I'll think about that. No, they must all die again. And it's really annoying because there's no negotiations, there's no discussion, there's no anything with her. the only Ice Warrior with any character in this is Friday. And what Friday gets to do is rescue the Doctor and Bill and then disappear. And that's it. That's the big thing. That's the only show of personality from any actual Ice Warrior in this. Even when these supposedly intelligent tactical Ice Warriors are fighting against the British troops, yes, they have the distraction of just running straight at the guns, and two of them sneak behind them. It's just really weirdly done that these supposedly superb warriors aren't that good, and they've been really dialed down since the last time we saw them. They're meant to be intelligent and threatening and properly violent. And I know you're not going to see proper violence on Doctor Who, but there's no real threat from them. And there's no real nous and intelligence behind them. Yes, I know they're like running at the guns and they want to kill and they turn people into bouncing balls. But it just tones it down so much that you don't see... I miss the dark, evil, trapped on a submarine, base under siege Ice Warriors that we got last time. And instead now we've got, look, we'll turn people into bouncing balls. Our sound effects have changed, Ice Warriors, who just run at the guns. And I don't like the changes.
I mean, I must take issue with we don't get to see much violence from them because they turn the people into bouncy fucking balls. That's grim. That's an absolute grim effect. Is you get shot with this gun, you don't just go all wobbly with a bit of mirror on. You actually get squished, compacted together, and you get left. I mean, that's got a sting when that happens, doesn't it? If you think about that, you're going to feel that in the morning, aren't you? That's
the thing. You're going to feel that in the morning. It's not. It doesn't appear fully like it doesn't feel permanent and violent and vicious.
I don't know how more violent and vicious getting squished into a ball, physically squished into a ball, can be. It's
almost cartoony. Is my problem with it.
It's great.
Their old weapon was better. The sonic effect.
Really was.
Then you just get put into bit. It
wasn't. You got bored of that. I mean, the last time I watched Seeds of Doom.
Are you
Doom? I mean, that's a 6-part story. You can easily condense that one down into 4 just by taking out all the Mirror-on. There's like there's a 2-part supercut there where someone can just put all the Mirror-on effects from Seeds of Death together, and you could sit and watch that for 50 minutes. You really could. This is a lot more interesting than just. And yes, it is giving Mr. Blobby his first acting job as a voiceover there, but it's
for a Scooby-Doo for a second.
Yeah,
that visual effect of you get shot by this gun. You don't just have your sort of like Dalek death throw and you get squished into a bouncy fucking ball. That's one of the best deaths ever in Doctor Who. I'm sorry. Not sorry.
I think they shattered into a million pieces, which I think is the idea of the original, would be more violent than being squished in a ball. Just saying.
Are we wanting to have Ice Warriors who essentially just detonate folks' heads like scanners? Is that what we're gunning for?
That would be awesome, but I don't think they'd show it.
Really, yeah, I would pay to see that.
I was going to say, yeah, it'd be a bit beyond tea time Saturday night BBC One, but yeah, just like.
Yeah, that's more Torchwood, really.
Yeah, pretty much, I suppose.
I'll tell you what I'd pay to see. It's what Gareth Bowles just suggested. Could Dave make that shape himself? Dave, the floor is yours. Come on. It's contortion time when they pull this box live.
The floor might be mine, but the hips are 44 years old, so no.
And not his.
Yeah. I didn't say my hips, just the hips that are on the floor behind me. They're 44 years old.
Yeah. God. I mean, if we're comparing this to Cold War, and I had this thought, Cold War is a story about a single Ice Warrior going around in a claustrophobic location, bumping off the crew one by one. This, Empress of Mars, is them coming back, but in more of a force and being in a direct battle with, human forces. So, if Cold War was Alien, is Empress of Mars not aliens?
He's back to being Mark Kermode
And
again here, isn't he?
Yes, yeah.
I can give it no further compliment than that.
Well, you could say Cold War's Terminator, and this is Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Now we're doing the movie
Yeah.
quotes like Paul now.
This is the Jim Cameron sequel of Doctor Who stories.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, because I think, as we've kind of established tonight through our own conversations and the viewer evidence, the Ice Warriors in Cold War are shit. Sorry, Ice Warrior. Skinny Shrek out of his suit. It's a mistake. Taking him out of the suit was a big mistake in that episode. What we do get here is we kind of get the Ice Warriors more as Klingons than anything else, because every sci-fi show now has got to have a Klingon. We're trying.
Are we talking about Star Trek again?
Yeah,
we are. Yeah,
we tried turning the Centaurans into Klingons, and that didn't work. So now we're having to go turning the Ice Warriors into Klingons. So you get more of the sense of the honor behind their society. Ice Warriors are more two-dimensional than your usual Doctor Who villains, because we have got the Curse of Peladon, where we expect the Ice Warriors to be the ones, the bad guys, but they're not. Turns out they're actually on the side of good, and this is not so much a remake of Curse of Peladon, it's the prequel, isn't it? Because we'll have Alpha Centauri popping up at the end to introduce them into the universe and get them into the Federation and all of that sort of stuff, but we are getting more new stuff with the Ice Warriors, though. We get an Empress now. We get the Borg Queen of the Ice Warriors, so we get a better understanding of how their hierarchy works. We get the hives there with all the frozen Ice Warriors in there. Very Tomb of the Cybermen, yes, but it still gives you an idea, doesn't it, of what life is like for Ice Warriors back on Mars. How does the Doctor describe them? Brilliant engineers, but then they would, bathe the planet in blood, or something like that. It's all there in the script, and all there in the performances of a lot more layered characterization of Ice Warriors for this one.
I think they're trying to, but they don't give them much background on it. I mean, we've met one Ice Warrior in the new series, and he was a general. We've now met an Empress. Where are all the other female ice people, Martians? Is it like bees? Is there one queen that rules them all? And if she dies, one of them suddenly turns into a queen, played by John Barrowman? Or is it like, is there a whole hive somewhere with their families frozen? We'd never get any background on them. We never get anything that adds to the Ice Warrior culture. Yeah, we know they've got an Empress, but we already knew that. Just because we now know she's got dreads, that doesn't add anything to their civilization.
That's still a lot more than we get of any other monster.
Mm-hmm.
Any other, we don't get this about, Daleks. You don't get, well, you probably do for Daleks because they've been in 30 bajillion episodes, but
yes.
You don't, all you get from Centaurans is, oh, yeah, they're going in a vat somewhere. Weeping Angels, you don't get anything. The Jadoon.
Silurians, we do.
Silurians have been, we've had their backstory since 1970.
Yeah.
There's very few other monsters in Doctor Who. They're, we get any sort of, idea of that level of backstory that we are getting here.
It's a very thin level of backstory still.
It's still thicker than most.
That's a very low bar.
It's still
the bar.
Okay. Barrett, are we done with that point? Thickness of it, otherwise?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Before we move on to the last point of the trial, which Cameron is preparing for by battering his laptop, let's have a look
No,
at some of
the
comments,
dog
Liz.
went past and took the cable with her. Thanks, dog.
Oh, Cam fixed his cabling issues. Let's have a look at some of the comments that have been coming in. Gareth Bowley says everyone likes Friday. To which Daniel Ronsley distressingly puts a terrible earworm in our heads by saying Rebecca Black likes Friday. Thanks for that, Daniel.
Yep.
That's 2 weeks of that being lodged in our heads now. Cheers. Daniel then goes on in a bit of a sort of commissioning kick if there's anybody from any TV channels watching. He says Friday Night Lights, that football TV show starring everyone's favourite Ice Warrior. Friday the 13th, but with Friday the Ice Warrior instead of Jason. All those horny camp counsellors turned into bouncy balls. Gareth Burley concurs. He said it'd be a great film. He heads to a basketball court and can be seen with crushed corpses while shooting hoops.
Yes.
Coming soon to a cinema near you. We'll get Cam's thoughts on that as Mark Kermode later in tonight's show. Right then, let's go to the final point of the trial then, and that'll be you, Cam. So let's give you your final point for the defence of Empress of Mars, please.
Oh, I'm trying to see if there's anything that I've got that's left over for this that we haven't mentioned already. I've not got a lot, I'll have to stress. Okay. Last point is the final shot of the episode. I love the last 2 minutes or so with Missy in this episode. And I've loved all the build-up of Missy so far in this series when we watched it back. But there's a particular camera shot when the Doctor and Bill walk into TARDIS, unknowing that Nardole has... And it's interesting that Nardole's the one to let... who's been banging on about the oath and how he has to stay on Earth and blah, 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 blah. Up until this point, Nardole's the one that busts Missy out of the vault to come and help and get the TARDIS started again to go back. And then there's the bit where the camera just looks at her through the crystal control panel, and her face comes around the side of it like that. And Michelle Gomez plays it utterly to perfection. And I loved that last 2 minutes of this episode for leading on and sort of carrying on that Missy arc throughout this entire series. So there you go. That's me. The Missy section at the end of this is sweet.
I have to agree with that shot, but just a pity the last 43 minutes before it wasn't as good as the last 2 minutes.
Yep.
So cynical.
The acting in that scene between Michelle Gomez and Peter Capaldi is superb, and it really shows up how bad the rest of the acting is.
Yeah.
Because we go from, not now that Neville's in charge, to the actual deep emotional relationship between those two. And even the relationship between Nardole and the Doctor and Nardole and Missy is so well developed. And obviously that must have been done by the show writer with more control because they wanted to have it a part of the overarching arc. That Mark Gatiss probably didn't have much to do with it, which is why it's so well acted, well written, full of ideas, and different, unlike the rest of this episode.
Oh.
I like the bit where Alpha Centauri pops up as well, because you can talk about this being Mark Gatiss's fan wank as much as you want, but as a fan, to get his Anne Churchman back at what 92-year-old she was, to voice one little scene. I mean, that is just
chef's kiss nod.
That's fan wank for every fan of the classic stuff. It's what he would have wanted.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to say, and as a fan and as a wank.
No, the way he said that though made it sound like he was dead. I was having to check if the Polo Sports curse had struck during the podcast tonight. We've killed Mark Gattis.
Well, he's probably not coming back to write by the looks of it.
No.
So that was his big fan wank finish.
Yeah.
There's an image.
Soggy Centauri.
Yep. 60 quid Doctor Who perks.
Yep.
Okay.
Christ.
With that disturbing technology in our heads, Let's begin summing up. Right then, Dave, Rennie, let's have your summing up as to why Empire of Death, almost said there. That's definitely guilty of crimes
Empire
against
of
Doctor Who. Empress of Mars is guilty of crimes against Doctor Who, please.
I forgot where to do a summing up, so I've actually not prepared anything at this point. But I'll just sort of... The only thing that we haven't talked about, just very briefly, is we talked about that shot in the TARDIS just now, but one shot that we didn't talk about is, why is Capaldi doing a Pennywise sort of smile to the camera into the opening credits? It's almost as if he's saying, right, I know this episode is, I don't have any clue what this is about, this is just so generic, and he's just thought I'll do this smile before going into the episode. I don't know. No, it's a generic episode. It's there's nothing original. They try and we can tar it up with a new Ice Warrior, fancy set that looks red, but it's everything we've seen before. There's nothing original. There's a pantomime guy walking into the set. Yeah, I've not got anything more to say other than it's just repetition.
Yep.
Okay. All right, then, Dave, original recipe Dave. Let's have the summing up as to why. I keep going to say Empire of Death. What's wrong with me tonight?
It's a better episode.
Well, that's debatable. This is a whole different episode, Dave. We're going to have to come back to that one. Dave, give us your summing up as the Empress of Mars is guilty of crimes against Doctor Who, please.
I think largely, as Dave said, this is generic. It's classic Who remade. It's flat characters. It's a flat story. It adds nothing to anything in this series. It belittles the character of Bill. The only good thing about it is the 2 minutes before it finishes. You don't care about any of the people in this. Basically, at the end, they're pretty much all dead, and you go, meh. Which is not what you want from Doctor Who. It brings nothing new, nothing exciting. No new characters, no anything. The thing that this is guilty of is meh. It's nothing. It's just what we've seen before. And we should have better than that at this point in the run of Doctor Who. It's got a better budget, better ideas, better characters in the companions. We've got the Time Lord and the Time Lady, and it's just, no, we'll just do Victorians and Zulu and Base Under Siege and meh, fan wank. And that's what we get. And that's why it's guilty. Because it's offensively bland.
Okay, there we go. A couple of shoeings there for the prosecution. Let's go to the defence then. Fake Dave. Let's have your summing up as to why Empress of Mars is not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who.
Well, obviously the prosecution there's used the word generic quite a lot. I think we should swap that. We should use the word homage. It is a homage to the old series. It is a writer who delights and revels in pastiche and setting a scene, giving us a view and a feel of an era, and he's doing exactly that with this. We are, as you say, we are getting Zulu, but we are also getting H. Rider Haggard with things like She and the Meanz one, and you're getting John Carter of Mars. You're getting all of that rolled together into something which could be described as generic. It is, like you say, there's a comfort to it. There's an ease to this that's not pushing in any particular direction. It's presenting the Empire as a bunch of bastards, which is as it should be. But there's it's not slapping you in the face with the bastards. It's very much presenting it. They are easily identifiable. You're not having to kind of do any work to, figure out who the bastard is. He's twirling his moustache, as we've established, and having the time of his life. It's an entertaining episode. It's doing what Doctor Who should set out to do, which is entertain you for 45 minutes. So yeah, it might go over a few old tropes. It might recycle a few things from the past, but it does it in a way which is more reverential than anything else. It's not recycling the Third Doctor's era so much as, like I say, paying homage to it. The whole rank has its privileges bit. As fans, we all sat there and went, hey, I've heard that before. Like I say, when Alpha Centauri pops up at the end, we all go, hey, like that. When the Ice Warriors are doing Ice Warrior things, you know, we are happy with that because this is what we expect it to be. It's visually sumptuous. It's got a real sort of richness to the look about it. We've talked about some really good shots, character design. We are saying that it's generic and there's nothing new, there's nothing original, but we have got Ice Empress, Ice Warrior Queen, Bob Marley dreadlocks, Predator dreadlocks, someone said in the chat there. We are doing new things. We are pushing, you know, showing, though it's the same era, it's this Victorian era, we are showing a different part of it, and we are doing different things, and we are tapping into different elements of that period of history. I think the only crime that this story is guilty of is not being long enough. It does need more time to really get the core ideas, these two core ideas of colonialism on Mars and the Ice Warriors and what they do now that their home is buggered. It needs that second episode to really flesh them out, to give that depth to the characters, to give Bill more to do, to serve Peter Capaldi a little bit better, because we know what he's capable of. We know what you can do if you give him the right material. He doesn't get what we're used to from him here. He does show us what you can do, because he's never less than brilliant in any story that he's in. But give it the extra time, you know. And this could be, you know, we're talking about it being meh. Meh's not a crime. It's average. It's not terrible. It's not guilty of being terrible. Give it an extra episode. It could be great. As it is, it's decent. It's good. It's enjoyable. Defense rests.
Okay, one half of the defence is now firmly rested with his feet up after that summing up. Let's go to the other half. Cam, let's have your reasons as to why Empress of Mars is not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who, please.
What more can I possibly add that my learned colleague has not just said in the last couple of minutes? But I shall certainly try. Empress of Mars is not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. Firstly, because it's a story that takes real-world events of history and places them into a fantastical setting in a very, very interesting way. It's got some cracking battle scenes in it. It looks amazing. I know we've discussed, you know, about that, the red planet and the cave systems and the throne room or the tomb that the Queen's in. That looks amazing. In addition to this, it manages the balancing act of keeping a political message in the story without making it overdone and, hammering it over your head so many times. And I think most of all, it's just Doctor Who enjoyable comic book style fun. And I think for that, mainly, it's not guilty of any crimes against Doctor Who.
Okay, there you go then. Those are your summings up. We have a few minutes left on the poll to run. When this little ticker along the bottom of the screen disappears, the vote will be closed. So if you've not already done so, go out at the post box at Twitter or click in the link in the description of this episode underneath the video. It'll take you right to the poll. Cast your votes. When we come back, we'll reveal the result. It's a potential title decider again tonight, so could be Cam's series win. We'll find out in just a few minutes' time. Just before we go to a quick break while we count up the votes, Gareth Boley says, if Cam's doing Centauri later, please make sure he wears the robe.
Wow. Special requests.
Yeah. And Harry Hussey says, if doing Centauri is a euphemism for going off to live through an old copy of Country Life, Whatever gets you for the night, Harry. We're not judging.
No.
He loves a style and some tweed. Right then, let's go to a quick break. When we come back, we will have the results of tonight's trial. We will find out whether Empress of Mars is guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who. We'll see you in just a couple of minutes. And we're back. Now, just before we go to the results of the poll tonight, I'm going to have to take issue with someone that's watching along tonight, Harry Hussey specifically. That Randall and Hopkirk with Nicholas Courtney, Roger Delgado and Brian Blessed is on now. You're just going to abandon us, are you? You're just going to all go off and watch telly instead? Right, that's it. He tries to make amends. He tries to butter me up after that by putting a Cure reference in it. But it's too late, Harry. It's too late. The damage is done. That's another one for the commission editors there. Right then, the poll is closed. The votes have been counted. It is time to find out the result. Is Empress of Mars guilty or not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who? Here's how you voted. There you go. Cameron and the champion of the damned have done it again. It is not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who by 69% to 31%. That's a win for Cam. And more importantly, it means Cameron wins Series 4 of the Polis Box Live. It's currently 7-3 with 3 trials remaining. Congratulations, Cam.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I would like to thank all the co-conspirators that I have had along the way so far this series, especially Frazer tonight as well, who's, I think, done the vast bulk of the work this evening to get this one off the hook.
So there we go. Dave, commiserations, a series loss, but you can still make it more respectable in the next few weeks, can't you?
It turns out that our viewer/watchership of probably middle-aged white men quite like when a classic Doctor Who story is basically redone. What a fucking surprise. And also, they like Doctor Who generally. Fuck.
I know, it's mental, isn't it?
Surprise, is it?
Oh, okay then, Cam. So, as series winner, I mean, you get to decide what we do in Series 5, the Post Box Live. Do you want to do that just now, or do you want to save that to the end of the series? What do you want to do?
It's going to be a smart idea to save that to the end of our run for now.
I'm coming back.
Mainly because I've got one idea of where we could go that's kind of certain, a little bit of certainty about it. But I might have other ideas bouncing around. So, we'll decide at the end. We'll decide at the end.
All right. We'll leave it to Christmas then. Okay, then. Well, Dave and Fake Dave, thanks very much for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure to have both of you back.
It's been a pleasure to come
back.
Pleasure.
Thank you for having us back.
You'll be back. Once you're in, we lock the doors. That's what we do in the Post Box Live. Nobody gets to leave ever again. So once you're in, you're in. You're our wives now, as Papa Lazarou would say. Before we let you go, do you want to give your podcasts a plug or anything else you're involved with, Dave, Rennie?
I've got a little podcast, Kettle and Some String, where each episode we have a deep dive into a Doctor Who story, but it's completely random, so I don't know what's coming out next. Done about 60 episodes now, so anyone wants to do a deep dive out there who hasn't been on it, Fraser's been on it a few times, then give me a shout on social media.
Okay. And Fraser, how about you?
Well, I don't have a podcast of my own. I just have Mike Will Travel, so I'll just pop up anywhere that anyone will have me talking about Doctor Who. So that includes places like Kettle with Some String and Trap One, Hamster with a Blunt Penknife, Doctor Who literature. Done that recently. But yeah, anyone who wants to rent a gob, give us a shout.
Available from all good podcast stores. Okay, before we finish up tonight, a couple of more comments have come in. Daniel Ronsley says 69. Nice. Somebody was going to make that
I
joke.
wasn't going to make that joke. I wasn't going to
you
go
know.
there. There was part of me that was on the verge of saying a 69 will do me nicely, but I didn't go there.
They're always relying on our viewers to bring the tone down. Not us. Not us. We try to keep this
Not
classy and
us.
civilised at all times. Sort of people we just attract. Okay, then, that is it for tonight. Empress of Mars has been found not guilty of crimes against Doctor Who by 69% to 31%. Cameron has won the series. We will be back in a couple of weeks' time to do the Eaters of Light with, well, we're not entirely sure at the moment because it's all up in the air. Our scheduled guests might appear, they might not, but we'll try and get somebody. Somebody will get dragged into our own personal hell of the post box live. So.
I do know someone who prepped that one quite a lot.
Double fake thief.
And make a suggestion. We bring Fraser back, but for the prosecution instead of the defence.
That'd be fun.
See if we can make him hate himself.
That is getting noted in the book. Next time, Fraser. Next time.
Have you heard the term hostile witness?
Frequently, yes.
So, November the 7th, we'll be back for Eaters of Light with someone, I guess. As a wise
Someone,
man,
maybe.
Yeah, as a wise man once said, stay tuned, you'll find out. In the meantime, this has been the Postbox Live, Empress of Mars. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks for your evidence. Thanks for all your comments. And thanks for sticking with us for nearly 2.5 hours. I'll talk to you next time. Good night, everyone.
Before we go, I just have one last thing to say.
Yes.
Bastards.
Good night, bastards.
Good night.
Good night.
Right.